Hey guys, Sheldon here and welcome back, and I was about to say this is Sparta, but this is For Honor. Some of you may know that I've been super excited about this game since it was first announced. I played in the closed beta, the technical test, and of course the open beta as well, many hours. So I've gotten my fair share of experience with the multiplayer aspect of the game. And finally I was able to get my hands on the full game and played through the campaign, and of course some more of the multiplayer, which is basically the same as it was, except that all the heroes are now available, which was the case in the technical test as well, and there are some new locations for the various modes in the game. The campaign tells the story of events that happened before the current events in the game where the multiplayer takes place, and it helps you to understand why it is that the three factions are fighting in the first place, although I think it could have given a little bit more backstory than it actually did, but it is what it is. The campaign itself is divided into three parts that follow on from one another. So you start with the Knights, then the Vikings, and it ends with the Samurai campaign. And basically their dealings with Apollyon, who is basically a knight trying to reignite a war between the three factions since peace came upon the land, because apparently Apollyon can't stand peace. Each of these three stories are divided into 6 different segments that take place across a variety of different locations in the game. Unfortunately, the Samurai campaign does a lot of backtracking. I think in 2 or 3 of its segments you're playing in the same map kind of area, which was a little bit disappointing. But anyway, throughout these campaigns you'll be put up against various other factions, units and heroes, and in some cases groups within your own faction as well. On normal mode it took me around 7 hours to complete everything. Each segment has collectibles that can be found in the form of breakable vases, which basically grant you steel, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the video, or emblems for your character, which are cosmetic logos and things like that, and observations, which are locations that you need to look at and press E that will give you a little bit of narrative backstory related to the location that you're looking at. I guess these were put in there to give these sections a little bit more of replay value, since it's very unlikely that you're going to finish all of these on your first playthrough. The difficulty can also be changed, but unfortunately, and I suppose no one's going to be surprised by this, even on realistic, which basically turns the HUD off, the game is still pretty easy, with the exception of perhaps the boss battles that require you to think a little bit more and have a little bit more patience with the combat sequences. The grunt enemies can be killed with one hit, as they can in the multiplayer Dominion mode and the skirmish modes. They're basically just fodder. Then there are, I guess, what I'll call lieutenants that have 3 blocks of health, 2 or 3 blocks of health. And finally, they're the heroes themselves. The bots aren't very clever, unfortunately, but I suppose that, again, that should come as no surprise to anyone who's ever played any kind of video game. The game offers a brief tutorial at the beginning of the campaign as well, which I find really strange, because the game drops you into a fully fledged tutorial when you start the game for the first time that's not connected to the campaign and is unskippable. And why they thought it was a good idea to force you to go through some of the same information all over again and it's unskippable at the beginning of the campaign is absolutely beyond me. There is no way to disable it, so every time you play through the campaign you're going to have to sit through the same tutorial over again. It's not particularly long, but it is particularly annoying that it exists in the first place. Throughout the campaign you'll get to play as a few of the classes from each faction, but unfortunately not all of them. And again, the campaign will also introduce you to some of the various multiplayer mode mechanics that can be found. The story itself is okay, the voice acting for the most part is well done. The campaign, however, is playable in co-op, which I think will add to the replayability, but let's face it, anything with friends is more enjoyable. And again, I don't know how much the difficulty is going to increase when playing with friends, since playing on realistic was relatively easy as well. So I don't know how challenging that's going to be. At any rate, once you've gotten all the collectibles, I don't really see any incentive to go back and play the campaign again. It's fine, it's enjoyable, but it's not that good. And if you're a collector, maybe you're going to go back and play all this stuff again. If you were planning on buying For Honor for the single player experience, I have to say, you're going to be wasting your money. For Honor is a multiplayer game, and you should buy it for the multiplayer. So that leads on to the next point. How is the multiplayer? Now, I've spoken about the multiplayer in my beta impressions video quite in depth, and my opinions for the most part remain the same. I'll start talking about the game modes in the game, and then I'll talk about the progression system and the loot system in the game as well. There is a Dominion mode, which is a 4v4 mode where each team has to capture points. The capturing a point nets you a certain number of points for both capturing it and actually holding it, so you'll get incremental increase in points while holding it. The more points you earn, the faster your score is going to increase. Once your team gets to 1000 points, the enemy team can no longer respawn, and once you've killed them all, you win the match. There is a skirmish mode as well, which is identical to Dominion, but without the actual point capture, so the score is based entirely on getting kills on the enemy. There is an elimination mode as well, which is 4v4, essentially a deathmatch mode, I suppose. The team that eliminates the enemy team first wins. Now, both skirmish and elimination modes have power-ups that are scattered around the map. Health, defense, attack. If you pick up these, you'll get more health. Obviously, you'll heal yourself. You'll get the ability to run fast if you pick up the speed boost, or you'll get the ability to survive longer if you have more health and have a shield, or do more damage. Now, before I move on to the last two modes, I want to talk a little bit here about these two modes. Skirmish for me is by far the worst mode in the game. It encourages Zerg rushing lone enemies, which to me goes against everything that For Honor is about. It's a tactical melee combat game. You know, skirmish turns into a button mashing of outnumbering opponents and then killing them, because the whole mode is about getting points for kills, so people are obviously going to get as many kills as possible by any means possible. There's going to be no fair combat encounters there. Everyone's just going to gang up as much as possible so that they can win the round. Elimination is not quite as bad. In some cases people will wait while their teammates finish the battles, but this isn't always the case, but it does happen. I suppose a good analogy would be like saying skirmish is like playing Rainbow Six Siege, but every time an operator dies, they respawn and are back in the map. Oh wait, there is a game like that. It's called Call of Duty, and it defeats the point of any tactical encounter. Dominion, which is also a 4v4, does to a degree suffer from the same issue, but the difference in my opinion is that having the overarching goal of capturing points adds at least a degree of strategy to the map and a purpose. So if enemies are zerging around killing lone warriors, they are not holding points, they are not capturing points, and therefore could potentially lose the match because of it. And so there's more sense of enjoyment in this particular mode, where skirmish by extension and elimination are, to me at least, far less enjoyable. The single best modes I would say are Duel and Brawl, because this is where For Honor really shines. The combat is tactical, it's deliberate, there are no power-ups to give one person favor. It's 1v1 or 2v2, but depending if you're playing Brawl, where the player with the highest skill will probably be victorious. It's in this mode where knowing your class and knowing your moveset, when you should and shouldn't do certain moves, can become paramount to winning, especially when you're facing higher skilled players. This is where it's more like a fighting game, so knowing your moves again is only part of the picture. Knowing your opponents is just as important. Knowing your environment, the ledges, the pits, the spikes, all of this is going to factor in to how the battle is going to turn out. You have to be aware of absolutely everything, and you're not suddenly going to get rushed by 3 people while you're trying to have a tactical battle with someone. So it's in this mode where your knowledge of the game and the hours you put into it are going to start to shine. For Honor definitely has a steep learning curve, but once you've understood the intricacies of the combat system, I think this is where the game becomes so much more rewarding and so much more enjoyable. Button mashing in For Honor is going to get you killed, and honestly, if this is the approach you're going to have, you'll very likely get bored with this game, and you really are going to be missing out the depth that the game really offers. And this is why I inherently have an issue with the skirmish mode. It encourages this kind of button mashing, run around Zerg people kind of gameplay, and honestly, I think it really hurts the game. So from playing the various modes, you're going to get rewarded with steel, you're going to get rewarded with XP, and in some cases loot at the end of each of these matches. As you level up, you're going to unlock new feats, which are essentially like abilities which have cooldowns, so you can heal yourself, you can call in arrow strikes, you can drop smoke bombs and all that kind of thing. And these are available basically in all of the modes with the exception of Brawl and Duel. When you get loot, it contains a piece of gear that you can upgrade your stats with and offer some sort of cosmetic change to the way your warrior looks with weapons and armor. However, only the cosmetic changes matter in Duel and Brawl. And by the way combat works in For Honor, it's entirely possible also for a higher skilled player with worse gear to win over a less experienced player with better gear. Now, steel can be used to upgrade your gear as well, or even to unlock new emotes and executions, which I think is pretty cool indeed. And finally, there are daily challenges which are going to require you to do specific things and will reward you with steel and XP. So play versus the AI, play as a specific class, play at a certain mode. There are a fair variety of these challenges. You've got your normal daily challenges, and then you've got contract challenges as well that you can do. And you can queue up whichever ones you want to do and then play those particular matches. Now, talking about the challenges, I came across something quite annoying in the game. One of my dailies was to win an elimination match versus players. The problem is that the elimination and skirmish matches, which I absolutely dislike, are grouped into one group. You cannot actually remove yourself from the skirmish queue. The only thing you can do is choose which of the two you prefer. So I obviously selected elimination because I prefer that. And today I ended up having to play through 4 skirmish matches, even though I had selected elimination as my preferred match type before I could actually get into elimination match. The problem was also that we lost. So I didn't get the challenge, and we lost because we were teamed up against a much higher level team than we were. And then of course I have to re-queue, which is going to require me most likely to play through even more skirmish matches just so that I can finish one daily to finish and win one elimination match. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that they do not allow players the choice to disable certain modes that they do not want to queue for. The networking is going to be problematic for many people as well. There are no dedicated servers for Honor. The game is peer-to-peer. Now, it's certainly better than it was during the various betas that I played in, but unfortunately it's by no means perfect, and can it ever be with peer-to-peer. I've had several instances of server host migration and several disconnects. It is quite disconcerting when you're playing a match or you're in the middle of a battle to suddenly have this big message appear across your screen that says host migration failure or whatever it was, and then you having to reconnect and have somebody else host the game. So yeah, hopefully they can get that stuff sorted out, but I'm not entirely sure that is actually going to happen. The other thing is that there are microtransactions in the game as well as season pass members getting bonus steal and more chance of loot, as far as I understand it, the season pass. And I know that some people are going to take issue with this. First of all, that a $60 title contains microtransactions, and that people who own the season pass are going to get a loot benefit. Now, as far as I know, the steal bonus is not massive, but I think that the extra chance of loot could be an issue in modes, especially like Dominion, Skirmish, and Elimination, where better loot offers better stats. I guess we're going to have to wait and see how much difference these high-end gear stats actually make, and I think the developers have said this, that the differences are going to be quite minor. So, is For Honor everything that I wanted it to be, and is it worth picking up? Now, I love the combat. As a martial arts instructor myself, I think it's really awesome. It's tactical, it has weight, it feels very visceral, and the executions are awesome, and the game has a very high skill ceiling, but it's certainly going to require a fairly large time investment, I think, to stay competitive in the game, which I don't have a problem with at all. As in the betas, I'll probably end up spending the majority of my time in either Duel or Brawl or Dominion. If I have a few more friends playing, of course I'll avoid Skirmish because I don't think there's any point. I think the mode sucks, and I don't think that power-ups in general fit in a game like this, but of course that is just my opinion. I don't think that this game is going to be for everyone. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. If you're easily frustrated and you're not willing to put the hours in to learn the game, it's probably not for you. If you're looking for an easy to pick up game and just play it casually, yeah, maybe you should look elsewhere. You are definitely going to need a lot of patience to play this, and you're going to have to be willing to spend hours learning your characters ins and outs to get the most out of the game. I spent almost the entirety of the beta playing one class, and the game is much deeper than it initially appears. There are 12 classes that you're going to have to learn, and I'm not saying you have to put time into all of them, but I think in order to play well, you're going to have to focus on one class, but at the same time, you are going to have to know how all the other classes function, at least on a basic level, like any fighting game, so that you can handle them effectively. But as I said before, For Honor has an incredibly high learning curve, but if you're willing to get through that, there's an incredibly rewarding tactical melee game waiting for you on the other side. Well guys, I think that wraps up my thoughts on For Honor. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, you can give it a like, and if not, well, there's always the dislike button as well. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and please share the video if you enjoyed it, because it really helps the channel grow. Thanks again guys for watching. I've been Xiaoling. Until next time.